Oil. And this time, it may not survive a luxury brand that built its entire image on scarcity. Exclusivity and made-in-French craftsmanship is now being torn down from the inside, and it's not just one individual voicing out, it's a synchronized assault. A former Hermès insider has allegedly allied with the very Chinese producers Hermès sought to suppress. Together, they're not just unveiling the truth, they're aiming to dismantle the whole empire entirely.
It starts with 30 distinct cuts of leather and can take 20 hours to complete, 4 hours for just the handle. Put the finishing touches on a Kelly, the most difficult bag to build. Artisans rely on their training and muscle memory to make every bag.
Assert that those $20,000 plus Birkin bags supposedly crafted by premier French artisans were actually bulk made in Chinese plants, dispatched for finishing touches, then branded with a Made in France label to sustain the deception alive. Look at. This is grander than mere fraud. It's a treachery of every loyal customer, collector, and investor who ever bought into the Hermès legend, and the reality that these two factions, one from within the brand, the other from the obscurity of the production chain, are now uniting. That's not a drip. That's a demolition in the fashion realm. It's observing in shock.
It requires a lot of skill to turn it and get it on the right way.
Il y a des bouchées, des bacs plus 4, 5, 6.
For years, Hermès has promoted the notion that every Birkin, every Kelly, every single bag was handcrafted by adept French artisans who devoted years honing their craft. But now a past worker is declaring falsehood. This insider didn't just spread gossip, they presented evidence per this whistleblower. A vast share of the labor is performed beyond France, specifically in Chinese factories under rigid confidentiality. We're not discussing about hardware or packaging. We're discussing essential parts of the bags.
De l'entrée, on me donne des morceaux de cuir jusqu'au moment où je vais avoir livré ma pièce. Je veux pas qu'on reproduise un geste de façon indéfinie en se disant bon bah je fais toujours ce même geste, et donc je pense qu'on est vraiment là pour apprendre un métier et pas des tâches.
Leather slicing, sewing, construction. The exact things Hermès demands 5 figures for. And here's the direst segment. These aren't mere arbitrary plants. They're the identical ones. Hermès purportedly menaced with legal measures if they ever disclosed.
These are pieces of artwork. These artisans train years and years to make one of these bags.
Fabrice is doing the last stitching on a Kelly bag. A Kelly takes around 13 hours to be made, depending on the materials that we make it. Our artisans, they need to do 4 years of training to be able to manufacture a Kelly bag.
Well, Hermès says, made in China, does it feel cheaper? No, that's not a quality issue. It's luxury brand washing.
Hermès, you guys, it's time to show off your factories. No, I don't want to wait to go on YouTube and watch a beautiful documentary. Show them off right here on TikTok. Let the world see. Okay, get like China. You gotta be ghetto about it. Just let people know.
The whistleblower asserts the whole procedure is veiled from the masses, with components covertly transported to France for scant finishing just sufficient to rightfully attach that Made in France tag. And this isn't a fresh pattern. The insider alleges this has persisted for ages, safeguarded by NDAs, corporate quietude, and meticulously shaped narratives. This disclosure didn't merely rattle patrons, it exploded entire forums' luxury. Reddit threads, Discord clusters, and even purse speculation circles are hastening to ascertain how much of their holdings are part of the deceit industry. Specialists have opined, labeling the whistleblower's assertions plausible and, more vitally, verifiable if the paperwork, transport records, and manufacturing timetables align. Hermès might confront global litigation, repayment claims, and
Have you all seen that TikTok by the Chinese guy exposing how luxury goods are actually made? The only real difference? China ships the products to Europe, slaps on a Made in France or Made in Italy label, and boom, luxury? It's ridiculous.
And the moment couldn't be graver, since precisely as the whistleblower unleashed the explosive, the producers they endeavored to mute emerged. Battling the whistleblower might have nudged the portal ajar, but the Chinese manufacturers they smashed. It off the hinges for eons, these plants functioned in quietude, constrained by NDAs, gag mandates, and implicit menaces. They weren't permitted to utter a syllable, not to the media, not to stakeholders, not even to their own personnel. Hermès guaranteed that, but now those identical producers are finished complying. Numerous plant proprietors and erstwhile overseers have advanced corroborating the whistleblower's assertions with snapshots, paperwork, and privileged insights. And what they're articulating is condemning.
Had a lot of requests, do Hermès next. And that's why we're here in the Highland Park Mall.
In Italy, made in China. Or maybe made in Chile. Oh yeah, that should be a thing, by the way. I have spent over $100,000 of my own money dissecting luxury bags, cutting them open, analyzing every stitch, every layer. Why? Because I had to know what made those bags so expensive.
They contend that whole consignments of Birkin bags were sewn, constructed, and completed nearly wholly in China, then forwarded to France for slight modifications, a rivet here, a stitch there, just enough to declare final creation transpired in Europe. Why so Hermès could rightfully attach a Made in France label on it and demand you $25 for what was fundamentally a repackaged import, and here's where it escalates. Grimmer, certain of these producers asserted they were overtly directed not to leave any proof that the bags hailed from China that implies no Made in China tags. No export papers, nothing that would link the points. The objective was plain safeguard. The mirage at all expenses. One producer even disclosed internal correspondences that seemed to indicate Hermès agents directing plant personnel to employ European sewing designs, even if the labor was executed in Shenzhen or Dongguan. This wasn't a blunder. This was a calculated ruse. And now that the verity is surfacing, the plants are reversing the narrative. They're not merely unmasking Hermès. They're collaborating with the whistleblower to incinerate the entire concealment to the ground. And just when the strain peaked its zenith, Hermès did precisely what billion-dollar firms invariably do when snared culpable. They mobilized attorneys. Hermès didn't refute the accusations outright. They didn't proffer a genuine apology or pledge to probe. Oh nay, the brand promptly initiated legal onslaughts against numerous Chinese producers, charging them with breaching confidentiality pacts, pilfering intellectual assets, and defaming the Hermès brand translation. You revealed the verity, and now we're pursuing you, but the producers are not retreating. Indeed, they've inverted the judicial tale. They're now contending that Hermès misused NDAs to cloak immoral practices from the masses. They assert they were coerced to remain mute about production circumstances that would never succeed in France. Bulk fabrication lines, hasty quality inspections, and even delegating to tinier plants. When demand escalated, their message is unmistakable. This wasn't about shielding trade mysteries, it was about shielding a falsehood. What's even graver for Hermès is their judicial approach is commencing to boomerang, since every court submission, every disclosed testimony, every vindictive remark merely attracts more scrutiny to the controversy and the masses. They're not aligning with the billion-dollar brand. They're endorsing the individuals who fashioned the bags, the ones who were genuinely. They're the ones who observed the leather get sliced, sewn, and packaged up long before it ever reached a French atelier fashion, connoisseurs caution. Hermès is treading a perilous path if the lawsuit advances to trial. Internal archives might be unveiled. Packs transport logs, vendor emails, proof that could demolish the firm's repute eternally. And if even one magistrate favors the producers, that Made in France label might morph from emblem of opulence to jest of the era. Hermès didn't merely forfeit dignity, they forfeited trust when the revelation struck that their most cherished bags might be emanating from Chinese plants, rather than the idyllic French ateliers they've been touting in every ad for decades. Individuals felt misled, and they weren't silent about it all over digital platforms. TikTok, Reddit, YouTube, Instagram. The opulence community plunged into utter mayhem mode. Purse aficionados, fashion influencers, and even longtime Hermès devotees commenced doubting everything you're informing me. I lingered 3 years, expended 30,000, and acquired a bag from the identical plant as imitations that was merely one of thousands of remarks inundating videos and posts. Patrons didn't merely feel swindled, they felt mortified. Since for Hermès patrons, it's not merely about the bag. It's about the tale, the mirage of scarcity, the notion that you merited your Birkin, that you were part of an elite exclusive circle. But once individuals grasped, they were dispersing French opulence prices for Chinese assembly line output. The mirage. Disintegrated refund petitions commenced streaming in. Resale values plummeted. Consignment platforms noted a surge in Hermès returns. Even prominent purse forums like Purseblog and TPF started expunging posts since the turmoil was erupting beyond what the moderators could manage. And here's the crux. This isn't merely one dire news cycle. This is repute disintegration. Hermès invested eons erecting this image, and it took one whistleblower and a few plant leaks to obliterate it. Patrons now crave answers. Not PR rhetoric, not influencer drives merely the verity. And until Hermès delivers it, the harm isn't merely done, it's still proliferating. The only ones fretting presently, the instant this saga erupted, every principal opulence brand slipped into alarm mode, since if Hermès, the epitome of artisanship, legacy, and exclusivity, can be unmasked. Thus, who's next? Chanel, Louis Vuitton, Dior, Prada. Abruptly, everyone's operations are under scrutiny, and consumers aren't restraining blows. Individuals are delving through ancient fabrication logs, they're probing how brands validate $5,000 price tags. When materials stem from outsourced economical sites, the floodgates are ajar, and the throng isn't merely furious, they're mobilizing. Videos are arising, juxtaposing authentic and counterfeit bags, plant footage versus ad campaigns, and influencers versus actuality, even prominent fashion. YouTubers are designating this a reckoning for opulence fashion. The discourse has formally transformed. Was it worthwhile now? Is it even authentic? And this pierces deeper than product. Ascertain quality. It's about brand essence. These firms didn't merely vend purses, they vended prestige aspirations, a curated tale that warranted exorbitant prices. Now those aspirations appear contrived. Industry analysts are already prognosticating major
This juncture proves that whistleblowers don't merely unsettle industries. They can redefine them. But what transpires next? That's what the opulence realm dreads the most. The partnership between Hermès whistleblower and Chinese producers has